What true change requires is for us to take all our ideas, all our perceptions, all our beliefs, how we think it is, everything that brought us here, and put it on the altar and light a big old fire under it and let it burn. Even relationships, even jobs, even things that we identify with. Put them on the altar and burn them. And what is true about you will remain. The true you will remain after the fire has consumed that which is not you. There are two kinds of people in this world: those who complain and blame, and those who are willing to get the help that they need in order to change it. Let's see in this video which kind you are. In the end of the video, I'm going to give you a list of indicators to help you see whether this is you, and a list of about 8 characteristics of people who end up with positive change. But let me tell you some stories. In 2012, by that time I had already created a long track record of failures and mess-ups, in relationships especially. And it all was culminating and coming to a head at around that time. The first thing is that I realized, and this was a big realization, that I was the problem. Not other people, not the world. I was the problem. And this was very difficult for me to realize, because while you need to realize that you, not who you truly are, but who you present as, your persona, your false identity is the problem. At the same time, you are trying your level best to just please everyone, do what you need to do, try harder, do more, and it all crumbles down into nothing. And this was an earth-shattering realization. The day I realized it's not how people are, it's me. It's how I come to the world that is the problem. During my journey of transformation, which is still ongoing, an aphorism, a truth came to me, and it goes as follows: from true being flows true action, bearing true fruits. Now, I had this written on my fridge for a long time. Until recently, I realized I wasn't fully embodying that truth, because it all boils down to, as what do you present yourself to the world? As a persona built around wounds and egoic defenses, or truly as what you are, without almost saying defenselessly who you are. Now, I'm not saying defenselessly you should let people walk over you. That's a discussion on boundaries, which we can go into later. But defenselessly, I mean not expecting people attacking you around every corner. Every decision you make from a wounded identity is going to be a bad one. And for some people, the way that they are built means that they don't make decisions. They stay in the relationship that's causing damage. They stay in the job that's breaking them down every day. So not making decisions from your wounds, in other words, protecting yourself from the failures that you expect will come from decisions, or the attacks that you expect will come from the people around you when you make another bad decision. That's going to cause you to fall into some kind of static limbo where you don't make decisions. Now, as we're going to get to the indicators of those who can change, you will not fall into that category if you allow yourself to fall into this position of not being able to make decisions. Now, I wasn't like that, and I still am not like that. What my problem was, I kept making decisions, but based on a false identity, so they were poor decisions. So back in the day when I was a horseman, and I was trying to put on this bravado identity of, I can show them and I can fix them and all of that, I would have a rough time with some of the horses, because some of the horses were problem horses, and I would struggle with them. And it also became quite negative for me and drained all my energy. Now, imagine a person whose energy is drained from struggling with difficult horses all day long, from a difficult identity. Now I get home, even my shoes irritate me when they're in my way. How do I bring the compassion and understanding and space and love to a partner when I'm struggling like that. The other thing I would do with horses is I would perpetually have these ideas of what I'm going to do with this horse or this horse, and I would just buy horses that I shouldn't have bought, and it would be like harebrained ideas that I would have. And what's more, as I gain perspective now, is I would see that I would spend the last money or the only money that came in, I would spend on a horse. And I would justify it by saying, I'm going to train this horse and I'm going to sell it on. And it really worked out like that. And in the end, I gave horses away, and I just made one bad decision after the other. The other chronic error that I was involved in from lack of perspective is small thinking. I would go live on a farm in a house that I got for free, and what we call in Afrikaans be 'n bywoner, someone who lives on someone else's property without paying. I think English calls it a squatter. And in these ways, I was limiting myself. We would live far out of town, and I wasn't involved in the mainstream economy, and I would tinker with saddles and stuff there. And it was just a small way of thinking that kept me from engaging to my fullest capacity. And that small-mindedness comes from a wounded personality, a personality that is constructed based off of wounds in childhood. Then what happens is, as the years go on, we develop characteristics and personality traits to protect us. Things like saying, I'm independent, I'm a tough man, and I'm not so independent, and I'm not such a tough man. I'm a sensitive person. As I got to know myself better, I realized, hey buddy, you're actually an artist, and you're a sensitive person, and you actually love people. I thought I hated people because I hated myself, and I was projecting that onto people. And then I thought, it's them. They are the problem. But meanwhile, I realized later I was hating myself. Now, the opposite of the small-mindedness is delusions of grandeur. Now, don't think for a second that it's either one or the other. I was operating both of those false narratives about myself. So in order to protect my vulnerabilities, I would have these illusions of grandeur that I was worth more. So an opportunity, a humble opportunity to pull me up from where I was would come along, a job or something. And I would say, no, I can't work for those peanuts. These people are insulting me. So I forevermore was defensive and thought everything everyone did was to insult me or disregard me or not respect me or not recognize my qualities or my value that I'm able to bring. But later I realized that was something I was projecting from my wound or some of my wounds. So that grandiose thinking can really hold you back, because success is built one little brick at a time, one little video at a time, one conversation at a time. Your first client, your second client, your third client, your fifth client, your 10th client. Success is built slowly. Success is built from having different streams of income. Little bit of photography work, little bit of horse liveries, some coaching, some journeying with people, and then it all comes together. And that can be success if you can maintain your lifestyle, which has emerged from the values of your true being. From true being flows true action, bearing true fruits. I still haven't proven that wrong. So my actions were repelling people. What we need in order to have a successful and a fulfilled life is we need to attract not everyone, but we need to attract the right people. And that is what this video is about forming networks, communication, relationships with people who are aligned with you, who can both take you forward and you take them forward. As I take you forward through my 10-week program, you take me forward by being a paying client and a valued client. And it becomes a synergy. It's also symbiotic. It's not parasitic. And parasitic is how much of or predatory is how much of the world operates. It's like, I must get more, dog eat dog. And that's very much a lack mentality, which I know a lot about because I lived it. All of these things I mentioned that I did wrong were flowing really from a fundamental lack of perspective. I couldn't see the bigger picture. I couldn't see my life for what it really was. I had illusions about myself and about the world, and that is why I couldn't function in the world properly. And it really has taken me many years to feel not only is it okay to function in the world, with other people, it is desirable. But in order for it to be sustainable, we have to qualify the relationships that are aligned and that are synergistic to us, to both parties. All right, that brings us to the 6 indicators of whether somebody will fall into the category that I mentioned in the beginning of people who are willing to change or able to change, able to access the appropriate help in order for them to change, or whether they're the kind of person who just blames and complains and feels depressed about it. We'll talk about depression in a whole other video because there's a lot to say about depression. But the depression I mentioned because it's based on victimhood, an identity as a victim. And so many of us never advance beyond that victim identity that comes from our childhood wounds. One of the most difficult things for a person is to lay down their identity of victim. Why? Because it brings them comfort in some sense because it's familiar. It also brings them attention, care from other people. Oh, shame, are you mental health and all of that? Yes, we should respect people's mental health situations. We should not disregard them. But depression is very much built. The identity of depression is very much built around the identity of victim. The moment someone lets down their identity as victim, depression will go. But we become enamored with the identity as the victim of depression, as if depression is some kind of external force, some random external force, like a bacteria that infected you. It's not to blame the victim. It's just to say, if you really want to stand up out of it, you can, because I did. Another story for another day. The 6 indicators to see whether you are already a subject for change. First one is you are on a growth path. You recognize this of yourself. I have always been on a growth path. I've always questioned things. I've always wanted to find a better way for me in the world. I wasn't just, nah, it's all right, let's just take another joint and that's... No, I was always pushing forwards. You are a person who notices the same patterns repeating in your life. For instance, in relationships, you either keep on ending up as the abuser or you keep on ending up as the abused. Fill in the blank, however that looks. Or in narcissistic relationships, you end up always as the codependent. You end up always with the same kind of person. Or in business, you always end up getting the shortest end of the stick. There's a pattern there, then you are on a growth path because you're realizing it. If you're a person who says, I keep asking the same questions, I keep looking for the same answers, and I keep getting the same results. If you can start seeing this pattern, now the pattern can be there. Hello. The pattern could possibly be there, but we don't see it. We need to be able to see and recognize these recurring patterns. The same questions, the same answers, the same kinds of people, the same results, the same frustrations. So if you feel stuck and frustrated, you are on a growth path because you are feeling it, you are recognizing it, you are seeing it, as opposed to just saying, oh, this life sucks, but this is how it is. The moment you start saying, can it be different? That may be you. Now, in conclusion, let's end with the 8 qualities that a person who can benefit with working with someone like me, who can guide them through conversations in order to unpack these things and devise strategies to overcome them in their own life. What qualities do these people have? People who are likely to change their situation, themselves, their relationships, their prosperity, and all of the above. First one, you are willing to challenge your own beliefs. You're willing to look at what has brought me here. How do I want change, but if I keep doing the same things that brought me here, I'm not going to change. I'm going to stay the same. So in order to change, we must be willing, at least, to challenge our core beliefs. Because there's one thing that holds people back the most, and that's their core fundamental beliefs. That could be your religion, your politics, your ideas about yourself, all of that. These things are to be unpacked in the sessions. They're not to be unpacked right here, right now. In future, we can look at some of them more in depth. Second one, willing to deeply look at your story. Is your story true? When I say from true being flows true action bearing true fruits. If your identity, the being part, is based off of stories of hurt and abuse and failure, narratives, false narratives, then you won't be able to change. Are you willing to deeply engage with your possibly false stories? Most people are not. They will create and generate and selectively find justifications and evidence that makes their story true, even if it isn't. Most of our stories are false. That's the sad reality of it. And most people don't look at the falsity of their story. That's why they don't change. Is this you? Are you willing to look at? Are you willing to break your stories apart? Are you willing to break your old identities apart? To change positively, to release, to relax, to breathe again. All right. Are you willing to invest resources, time, and money in yourself and on your journey of change? Some people just say, no, I'm not spending money on this stuff. Okay, well, that's a reason for you to stay the same. That's a reason for your story to not change. I get very excited about this stuff. Are you committed to change? By committed, I mean, are you willing to do whatever it takes? Move on. Are you willing to face your fears? Because change is a frightening thing to us all. It was frightening to me. That's why we want to hold on to the past and on to the hurts and on to the narratives. Because change is frightening. Are you willing to face your fears? In part of my small-mindedness, I ended up working on a game farm and some other farms in South Africa here, doing security work with my horses and my dogs. And I thought, now, okay, at first I didn't want to do that kind of thing at all, but in the end, life pushed me into it. Why? Because of my small-mindedness and my unwillingness to face my fears and rise to the occasion, rise to my potential. Rise up and occupy my life truly from true being. No, I was avoiding that. So I keep falling into these small-minded jobs and stuff. And the first night that I had to set out on a patrol on the big wide open farms at night in Africa, where it's quite dangerous, man alone, no gun, I was afraid the night before I was to set out. And that night before, I set out and I just went and walked out in the veld at night alone with no protection. And I said to myself, I'm facing these fears. Are you willing to explore the unknown? Because change is venturing into the unknown. And to what degree are you willing to face the unknown? That is why we hold on to our situations, however hard they are. That is why people keep falling back into the same relationships and jobs and things. Because to change it means I must start something new. I must do something that I'm not familiar with. And that's frightening. Last 2 points. Are you willing to take responsibility for your life as it is? Not blame anyone, like we said in the beginning. 2 kinds of people. Those who blame and complain. Or those who do not take responsibility. Or are you willing to say, I take responsibility for where I am, what I have, what I don't have, where I'm not, and get the help I need? And I can tell you stories about how I listened to gurus on my nightly patrols with the one earphone in, one ear listening for the criminals, and one ear listening to Muji and Adyashanti and Eckhart Tolle and Ram Dass and you can name them. Alan Watts and all these people. Oh, wow. What beautiful wisdoms I gained there, night for night for night. And are you willing to find the help you need, wherever you can find it, whether it's on YouTube videos of Ram Dass, or whether it's working with someone like me, or whether it's reading books? You will find what you need if you are willing to say, I need help. Knock and the door will be open to you. Seek and you will find. Last point, are you willing to make sacrifices? Now, let's just knuckle down and say, what true change requires is for us to take all our ideas, all our perceptions, all our beliefs, how we think it is, everything that brought us here, and put it on the altar and light a big old fire under it and let it burn. Even relationships, even jobs, even things that we identify with. Put them on the altar and burn them. And what is true about you will remain. The true you will remain after the fire has consumed that which is not you. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate you. Follow us for the third part in this series. The links are in my bio and then the first comment on my videos. I'm on all the platforms, and it'll take you to a single page where you can learn more about the 10-week transformational program, where I take you through 10 questions over 10 weeks, where we unpack these issues that I dealt with in my life. Have a lovely day.